Imagine a dojo, nestled in the quiet of a mountain valley. The air is thick with the scent of polished cedar wood and the silent weight of tradition. In the center of the floor stands an old master, his movements as fluid and inevitable as a river flowing to the sea. He has spent a lifetime perfecting his art, a discipline of balance, power, and inner peace. Opposite him is his greatest student, a young prodigy who mirrors his every move with breathtaking precision. The student is a perfect reflection of the master's teaching, flawless, disciplined, and utterly devoted. For years, the highest praise the student could receive was, "You move just like him." It was a testament to his dedication, a sign that he had successfully absorbed the wisdom passed down to him. But today, something is different. After a flawless execution of a traditional form, the master does not nod in approval. Instead, he is silent. The silence stretches, heavier than any instruction. Finally, he speaks, his voice quiet but clear. "Your form is perfect. Your technique is impeccable. You have become a perfect vessel for my knowledge." He pauses, his gaze locking with the student's. "And that is why you have failed." The student is stunned. Failure? How could perfection be failure? The master continues, "I did not spend my life teaching you to become my shadow. I taught you so that you could one day cast your own. A vessel can only hold what is put into it. A fire, however, can grow, change, and light its own path. Your task was not to preserve my flame. It was to use it to ignite a brighter one." This story, this paradox, lies at the heart of all true growth, creativity, and legacy. We are all, in some form, students. We learn from parents, mentors, books, traditions, and the giants who came before us. We spend the first part of our journey striving to learn the rules, to master the forms, to become a worthy vessel. But there comes a critical moment in our development, a moment many of us fear and most of us miss, where the path to mastery requires us to respectfully transcend the master. It is the moment we realize that the greatest honor we can pay to our teachers is not perfect imitation, but courageous innovation. This is the story of inheritance, which is not about replication, but about revolution. It is the story of how to build the future from the legacy of the past, and how the greatest masters smile when they are finally surpassed. Before one can lead, one must learn to follow. Before a flame can burn brightly, it must be kindled and carefully tended. The journey to becoming an innovator does not begin with rebellion. It begins with profound, almost sacred humility. It begins with the conscious choice to become an empty cup. The ancient Zen proverb states, "You must empty your cup before you can fill it." In the context of learning, this means setting aside our ego, our preconceived notions, and our impatient desire to create before we have truly understood. This initial phase is a deep dive into the established wisdom, the why behind every rule, the history behind every technique, the philosophy behind every action. It is the musician practicing scales for thousands of hours before composing a symphony, the writer reading 1,000 books before writing one, the entrepreneur working within an established company before launching their own disruptive startup. This period of absorption is about building an unshakable foundation. You are not just memorizing movements, you are internalizing principles. In martial arts, you learn that a block is not just a way to stop a punch, but a lesson in physics, leverage, and timing. In business, you learn that a sales script is not just a collection of words, but a study in human psychology, trust, and communication. This deep learning provides the essential toolkit. Without the tools, any attempt at creation is merely fumbling in the dark. However, a danger lurks within this essential stage, the comfort of competence. As we become proficient, we receive praise and validation. We become known for our skill in executing the established method. This proficiency can become a gilded cage. We become so good at playing by the rules that we fear what might happen if we were to break them. We become the perfect student, the flawless mirror. Our identity becomes intertwined with our ability to replicate the master's success. This is where true potential often stagnates. The musician becomes a brilliant cover artist who never writes their own song. The corporate manager becomes an expert at implementing the company's existing strategy, but can never envision a new one. The artist masters the classical style, but never finds their own voice. They have filled their cup beautifully, but they have forgotten that the purpose of the water is not just to be held, but to nourish a new seed. The art of following, then, is a delicate balance. It requires absolute dedication to learning the existing form, while simultaneously nurturing a quiet, persistent awareness that this form is a beginning, not an end. It is about respecting the vessel, but never forgetting that your destiny is to become a fire. Every revolution, personal or societal, begins with a question. For the student on the path to mastery, the most powerful and terrifying question is a simple one. Why? This question is terrifying because it feels like an act of defiance. To question the master, the tradition, or the established method can feel like a betrayal. We are conditioned to believe that the teacher has the answers, and the student's role is to accept them. But true innovation is born from a different kind of respect. A respect so deep that it seeks not just to know what to do, but to understand why it is done. The student who asks why is no longer a passive recipient of knowledge. They are an active participant in its evolution. They begin to probe the edges of the teachings. Why is this stance considered optimal? What happens if I shift my weight slightly? Why is this business process structured this way? What inefficiency is it protecting? Why is this chord progression so effective? What emotion is it truly trying to evoke? This is not rebellion for its own sake. It is a quest for deeper principles. When the legendary martial artist Bruce Lee developed his philosophy of Jeet Kune Do, he wasn't disrespecting the ancient arts he had mastered, like Wing Chun. He was questioning their rigidity. He asked, why should a fighter be limited to one style? Why should we conform to a system when combat is fluid and unpredictable? His questions led him to a revolutionary principle. Use no way as way. Have no limitation as limitation. He honored his training by transcending it, breaking down the styles he had learned to find the universal principles that united them all. He built a new, more effective art from the ashes of old dogmas. This transition from competence to creativity is the most crucial leap. It requires immense psychological courage. You must be willing to be a beginner again. You must risk failure, criticism, and the disapproval of those who are comfortable within the established system. The innovator often walks a lonely path at first. Their questions may be met with skepticism or hostility. This is the way it has always been done, is the mantra of stagnation. To dare to question is to begin the process of separating the principle from the practice. The practice is the specific form, the technique, the business model. The principle is the underlying truth that makes it work. A great teacher imparts practices, but a truly great student discovers the principles. Once you understand the principles, you are no longer bound by any single practice. You can create new ones. You are no longer just following the map. You are learning how to draw your own. This is the spark that ignites the brighter flame. Once the questioning begins, the student enters the dynamic and challenging phase of synthesis. This is where the true work of innovation happens. It is the act of respectfully dismantling what you have learned, not to destroy it, but to rebuild it into something new, something that is both a continuation of the past and a departure from it. This is the critical difference between imitation and inheritance. Imitation is a photograph. It is a static, perfect copy of a single moment in time. It preserves the past, but it does not allow it to breathe or grow. Inheritance, on the other hand, is like DNA. We inherit the genetic code of our ancestors, the foundational blocks that make us who we are. But that code combines in a unique way, shaped by our own experiences, environment, and choices, to create a new, distinct individual. The legacy lives on, not by creating clones, but by producing unique descendants. The process of synthesis is one of creative alchemy. The innovator acts as a bridge between worlds, combining disparate ideas to create something unprecedented. First, it is cross-pollination. Steve Jobs famously took a calligraphy class in college, an act that seemed irrelevant to his future in technology. Years later, as he was designing the first Macintosh computer, he recalled the beauty of typography. He insisted that the new machine have multiple elegant fonts. He combined the ancient art of calligraphy with the new science of personal computing to revolutionize digital design. He honored the old art by giving it a new, global stage. Second, It is the application of old principles to new problems. The principles of storytelling, character, conflict, resolution, are ancient, but when applied to modern business presentations, they transform a boring data dump into a compelling narrative that inspires action. When the principles of battlefield strategy are applied to marketing, they create campaigns that capture market share. The core wisdom is timeless, its application is infinite. And finally, it is the integration of personal voice. The final ingredient is you, your unique experiences, your passions, your failures, your perspective. This is the catalyst that makes your creation unique. A chef may learn the classical French techniques, but it is their memory of their grandmother's cooking, their travels through Asia, that allows them to create a fusion dish that is truly their own. Their personal story becomes part of the legacy. Forging this new path is the ultimate act of respect. It proclaims that the teachings of the master were so powerful, so foundational, that they could serve as a launchpad for something the master themselves never envisioned. The goal is not to prove the teacher wrong, but to prove their teachings right, on a scale they couldn't have imagined. This is the student, becoming the master of their own domain. They are no longer a reflection in the mirror, they are a new source of light. They have not just preserved the flame, they have used it to start a bonfire. Conclusion: the master's smile. Let us return to the dojo in the mountain valley. The student stands before his master, having absorbed the shocking lesson. Perfection was failure. He spends the next years not just practicing, but questioning. He studies the movements of the wind, the resilience of the bamboo, the explosive power of a thunderstorm. He travels and learns from other schools, not to abandon his master's art, but to understand its place in a larger world. One day he returns. He steps onto the cedar floor and performs a new form. It contains the grace and precision of his master's style. The solid foundation is unmistakable, but there are new movements, unpredictable and innovative, inspired by the world beyond the dojo walls. It is a style that is both deeply familiar and startlingly new. It is faster, more adaptable, more potent. It is his. When he finishes, silence once again fills the dojo. The old master watches him, and for the first time in years, a slow smile spreads across his face. It is not a smile of mere approval, but a smile of profound pride and fulfillment. The vessel has been broken, and in its place, a brilliant fire now burns. His legacy is not in the student who could copy him perfectly, but in the student who had the courage to outgrow him. His immortality is secured, not because his art will be perfectly preserved, but because it has become the seed of something new and vital. This is our ultimate challenge and our greatest responsibility. Look at your life, your career, your beliefs. Who are your masters? What are the traditions, the best practices, the established dogmas you have so diligently learned? Honor them. Be grateful for the foundation they have given you. Master their lessons with humility and dedication. But do not stop there. Find the courage to ask why. Have the audacity to connect old wisdom with new worlds. Have the strength to forge your own path, to integrate your own unique voice. The greatest tribute you can pay to those who lit your candle is not to protect it from the wind, but to use it to set the world ablaze. Because true inheritance is not about staying in the shadow of giants. It is about climbing onto their shoulders to see a horizon they could only dream of. The student's flame, when it finally burns brighter than the teacher's, does not extinguish the original light. It validates it, it honors it, and it casts a brilliant, hopeful light upon the future. Your teachers are waiting. Go and make them proud.